Yeah,
Can't wait for that. But first, it's time to spend a little time saying yes to life. It's time for a conversation with Peter Range. And I know, Peter, today you wanted to talk about, look, this argument so often. Men should just keep their mouths shut regarding the issues of life. This is a women's issue. The men just need to stay out of it. But you got some thoughts on that.
Well, good morning, guys. It's a great day to be alive, and I'm excited to be with you. And David, as I talk about men and being involved, I was just thinking back to when I was a little kid. I always thought, I would be a man when I was able to finally kind of grow a beard. Like that was the definition for me, at least of manhood, when I was a very young boy, 5, 6 years old. And it's probably because my dad had a beard. Well, I'm 43 years old right now, and I still cannot grow a beard. I've got my number 5 kid on the way, but I don't feel like I've hit manhood quite yet. But yeah, I want to talk about just men in general because I think one of the capital sins of men sometimes can be sloth. Can be I'm going to not try to spiritually progress in life. It's so easy to get distracted in our society and culture and to kind of sit on the sidelines. And then particularly when it comes to very serious issues where you might be risking your name or your reputation, or you're told really by most of society, look, you've got no say in this. You keep your opinion to yourself. And that certainly is the case with the issue of abortion. So there's 5 reasons that I think Christian men in particular should be engaged or should be allowed to be engaged in the pro-life movement. So I want to review those with you this morning. The first is really just the practical. So every child conceived in the history of humanity has come from both a mom and a dad. You can't have a child any other way. So the first reason is just practical. We share in the creation of the child. And so if we share in the creation of the child, we have a right and a responsibility to share in the decisions that affect that child's life. Biologically, the child is as much belonging to the father as it belongs to the mother. 23 chromosomes come from mom and 23 chromosomes come from dad. So first and foremost, just basic science here from a practical perspective, and it's just a very practical point. We share in the creation of the child, every child that has ever been conceived. All right, so secondly, the second reason I think men should be engaged in the pro-life movement is just, again, from the scientific perspective. It's a baby at the end of the day, and if it's a baby, if it's a part of the human species, we have a responsibility to kind of protect it. So let's just look scientifically. Day one at conception, of the 200 million sperm that try to penetrate the mother's egg cell, only one succeeds. And at that very moment, a new and unique individual is formed. All of the inherited features of this new little baby are set, whether it's a boy or girl, the color of the eyes, the color of the hair, dimples of the cheeks, cleft of the chin, whether or not they'll grow up to have a beard or not. He or she is smaller than a grain of sugar. But the instructions are present for all that person will ever become. And then, day 17, you got the blood vessels already begin to form. Day 21, the heart's beating. Day 26, the lungs now begin to form. Day 36, the baby's eyes develop their first color in their retina. I mean, the development in the womb, there's more development in the womb maybe than in any other part during our lifetime. So we know it's a baby from a scientific perspective. We know it's a human being. The third reason, though, from just a philosophical perspective, we hear often from society, look, you don't have a uterus, oh man, so you don't have agency, you don't have a say in this particular issue. Well, first, let me point out the irony here that most of modern culture, CNN, saw a story on CNN the other day, they talked about, a man having a baby. So I guess men have uteruses now, so they can have opinions on this issue. But leaving that aside for just a second, to say that simply because a man doesn't have a uterus that he can't have an opinion in this issue is just philosophically wrong. It's kind of like saying, well, you don't own a pet, so you can't tell your neighbor not to kill their dog, or you can't tell their neighbor not to torture their animal. It's by this logic, it's like saying, you don't own a gun, so you have no right to talk about gun laws whatsoever. Or you're sounding just like the South did during slavery. I mean, the South, their battle cry on the slavery issue literally was, no slaves, no say. So you don't have slaves, so you don't have a say whether or not slavery should be legal or not. The reality is, at the end of the day, we are allowed to speak into this issue because it's a human person involved. And, yeah, there might be two conflicting rights going on here, the right of a woman to kind of control her own body and the right of the baby simply to be born. But when you have two conflicting rights, the higher right, the more fundamental right, should take precedence. And so staying alive is more precious and more basic than not being pregnant. And so we know what we're doing when we kill a child. The fourth reason, from a societal perspective, is just a natural reality that abortion not only affects men as well, but it destroys our ability to create a culture of love and a culture of justice. So, one, just from my own personal experience, having talked to a lot of men who have had abortions, crying with men who have had abortions, it affects men too. I mean, this is their child. But from a larger societal perspective, the 1998 pastoral letter of the USCCB, Living the Gospel Life, I think is very instructive. They wrote that opposition to abortion doesn't mean we excuse any other issues, poverty, violence, injustice, whether that's, capital punishment or the violence of war. But being right in those matters can never excuse a wrong choice regarding direct attacks on innocent human life. And so the right to life is really foundational. It's kind of like the foundation of your home. Without the right to life, you can't argue that people have a right to immigrate or the right to access good education, health care, and housing if they don't have that first kind of fundamental right. So lastly, number 5, and again, just to recap real quick, the first reason that men should be engaged, it's a practical perspective. We share in the creation of the child. It's a scientific perspective. We know it's a baby. It's a philosophical perspective. Just because you don't have a uterus doesn't mean you can't have an opinion on this issue, particularly when human life is at stake. Then you have the societal perspective, the reality that this is the first fundamental right that is the undergird to every other human right. And then lastly, and maybe most importantly for us as faithful Catholics, is the religious or the spiritual perspective. It is our Christian duty as men to be engaged in this movement. So Genesis 2:15, Adam is called to till and to guard. Man's immediate responsibility that God gives him is the purpose to work and to protect, to work the land and protect his bride and his children. And in Proverbs 24, it says that we're called to rescue those who are being taken away to death. So we are called as men to stand up maybe now more than any other time in human history and protect the preborn and to have a say in this issue. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Peter. And what a great reminder that there's pain associated with abortion for the father as well, the father that loses that child, and not much emphasis put on that in recent years, but glad that more emphasis is being put there as well. Thank you, Peter Range, and the segment we call Say Yes to Life.